There's something women do that almost no man knows how to read. We pull away. Without warning, without explanation, we suddenly become colder, more distant, less available. And what a man does in that moment determines everything. Not whether he loses her or not, something deeper, whether he truly is the man she thought he was, or whether he just proved he isn't. Because that distance isn't always the end. Sometimes it's a question. Sometimes it's a test. And the problem is that most men experience it as a threat, react out of fear, and make mistakes there's no coming back from. Today I'm going to talk about 4 of those mistakes. The most common ones, the most costly ones, the ones she notices immediately, even if she never says a word. And I'm also going to show you how to pass that test with the kind of grounded presence only a man who truly knows himself can have. My name is Celia. This space is for men like you, who already understand that real attraction is built from within, not from desperately trying to make someone like you. Stay until the end, because by the time this video is over, her silence won't mean the same thing it did before. And that can change everything. The first mistake is the most immediate, the most instinctive, and it happens within the first few hours of sensing that something has shifted. She took longer to reply, or the tone changed, or something just felt off. And the first thing you did was ask what happened. Are you okay? Did I do something wrong? Why are you acting like this? And if she didn't respond the way you hoped, you pushed, because you needed to know. Because the uncertainty was unbearable. That impulse is human. I get it. But from the psychology of attraction, that string of questions does the exact opposite of what you're going for. When a man begs for explanations, he's telling a woman, without a single word, that his emotional stability depends on hers. And that, which looks like caring, projects one thing and one thing only: fragility. A woman feels it in her body before she can even name it. A friend of mine, Valerie, told me something I've never forgotten. She was seeing someone she genuinely liked. She had a rough week, pulled back from everyone, and he bombarded her with questions. She told me, "Celia, in that moment I realized I was his stability, and that exhausted me. I wanted a safe place to land, not to be someone else's." That's exactly what happens. She stops seeing you as someone who can hold her together and starts seeing you as someone she has to manage. I'm not telling you to ignore her. I'm telling you something more subtle and more powerful. Learn to hold yourself steady in the uncertainty without showing that you're falling apart. Say it once, calmly. If you want to talk, I'm here. And then keep living your life. Without checking when she replies, without analyzing every word. Because the real question she's asking herself isn't what happened between you two. It's this: can this man stay grounded when things get uncomfortable? Or does he need my constant approval just to function? And that answer doesn't come through words. It comes through your behavior. It comes through the quality of your silence. No woman wants to be your answer. She wants to be your choice. And those are 2 very different things. This first mistake almost always leads straight to the second, which is quieter, more destructive, and harder to catch because it disguises itself as maturity. There's a mental trap that even the smartest men fall into, turning every ambiguous signal into a verdict. She doesn't reply with the same enthusiasm, and the mind has already concluded she's no longer interested. She takes a little longer to text back, and he's already convinced it's over. And from that certainty, one nobody gave him but that he built himself, he acts. He shuts down. He gives up. Or worse, he reacts from a wound that doesn't even exist yet. This isn't reading the signs. It's catastrophizing. And it comes at a steep price. Because a woman's silence rarely means what it seems. It might have nothing to do with you. It might be her processing something she doesn't yet know how to put into words. It might be, consciously or not, a test to see if you hold steady when she's not feeding you with attention. What it almost never is, at least in the early stages, is an irreversible decision. But the man who reads it as a final rejection reacts, and his reaction gives him away. He goes cold out of nowhere, or the opposite, becomes way too present. He acts from pain before there's any real reason for pain. And she, who maybe just needed a natural moment to retreat, suddenly finds herself facing a man who already checked out emotionally before anyone asked him to. In practical psychology, this has a name: self-fulfilling prophecy. You assume rejection, you act as if it's already happened, and with that behavior, you end up causing the very thing you feared. A woman once told me something that stuck with me. There was a man she genuinely liked. One weekend, she hit a low point and pulled away from everyone, not just from him. And he, without asking anything, disappeared. Weeks later, he told her he had assumed she was done. She looked at me and said, "I just needed him to hold on for 3 days without panicking. Just 3 days." 3 days, and he couldn't do it. That ability to sit with uncertainty without collapsing, without overinterpreting, without projecting the worst, is one of the most powerful forms of masculine presence there is. It shows her that you don't need her confirmation to know who you are. Don't confuse distance with a decision. Don't confuse silence with a verdict. And if the first mistake is chasing her with questions, and the second is giving up too soon, the third is the one most men make while convinced they're doing the right thing. This is the mistake that disguises itself as love the most. And that's exactly why it's the hardest one to question. Because when someone points it out, the first reaction is to get defensive. What's wrong with being thoughtful? What's wrong with showing her I care? Nothing in the right context. The problem isn't the gesture, it's the timing. It's what's driving it, and it's the message it sends even if you never meant to send it. When she pulls away and you respond by doubling down on texts, showing up with thoughtful gestures, making yourself more available than ever, you're sending her a very precise signal that her distance has power over you, that all it takes is for her to pull back a little and she can make you react and adjust. And that, which might look like devotion, reads in the psychology of attraction as one thing only: anxiety. A man who can't hold himself together. Overcompensation isn't love, it's fear in nice wrapping. And the most ironic part is that it works the opposite of what we expect. The more you move toward her from a place of anxiety, the more she pulls away. Not because she's being cruel, but because her instinct is telling her something isn't right. And without a solid center, there's no real desire. There might be gratitude, there might be warmth, but there's no desire. A close friend of mine told me that her partner, whenever she got quiet, would show up with flowers, plans, long messages. At first she found it sweet, but over time she told me something I haven't forgotten. It was like every time I breathed differently, he went into alarm mode. I started watching my own reactions so I wouldn't set him off. Do you understand what that means? She stopped being herself to avoid triggering his anxiety. And that is the exact opposite of what love should produce. The man who overcompensates turns the woman into the judge of his emotional state, and no woman wants that role. It's not something you desire, it's something you carry. So what do you do instead? Nothing extraordinary. You keep being who you were when she came closer. The same calm, the same life, the same energy. Not inflated, not deflated, present but not desperate. Because that version of you, the one who didn't need her approval to function, is exactly what attracted her in the first place. And the fourth mistake, the last one today, is the one that closes the loop. It's the most revealing one. The one that shows her whether you're truly made of the material she was hoping for, or whether you just seemed like it. There's a difference between enduring and holding steady. Enduring implies tension. It implies that deep down you're forcing yourself to hold it together. Holding steady is something else. It's staying in your place not because you're suppressing something, but because you already know who you are. And that difference, though invisible, is something a woman feels. Always. This is the mistake that completes the others. The one that shows up when a man managed not to ask too many questions, not to read the silence as an ending, not to overcompensate, but couldn't hold the tension. And he cracked. He reached out first. He gave in first. He explained himself first. And in that moment, all the ground he'd gained collapsed. Because the test isn't just the pulling away. The test is how long you can stay steady without needing her to bring your calm back, without needing her to confirm that everything is okay, without needing, at the core of it, her approval to keep being yourself. From the Psychology of Seduction, what happens in that silence is a calibration. She's measuring something. She's seeing whether you are the man you seem to be, or whether that was just a front that crumbles the moment things get uncomfortable. And every time a man cracks first, she updates her perception. Not out of cruelty, out of information. Composure isn't coldness. A cold man disappears and doesn't care. A man with composure is present, reachable, but not desperate. He keeps living his life. He doesn't adjust his rhythm based on what she does or doesn't do. That consistency, that internal density that doesn't shift with the wind, is what creates sustained attraction. Think of it like a current of water. If you are the river, she can be the bank that moves closer or farther away. But the river doesn't change course every time the bank curves. It keeps moving in its direction. And sooner or later, the bank that pulled away wants to know where that river is going, the one that wasn't waiting for her. That's what happens when a man holds his distance with composure. She starts to wonder. She starts to move. Not because you manipulated her, but because there's something genuinely solid in you that creates curiosity, respect, and desire. And this is something few women will openly admit, but all of us know. The man who can hold himself steady in discomfort without breaking makes us want to come back. Because we're used to men who collapse, who push, who need. And when one shows up who simply stays in his place, in silence, without moving, something in us wakes up. So if you feel her pulling away, the question isn't how to get her back. The question is whether you can stay in your center long enough for her to feel the difference. So that when she looks back at you, she finds you exactly where she left you, grounded, present, whole. That can't be faked. It has to be built. 4 mistakes, 4 moments where most men betray themselves while convinced they're doing the right thing. And the most important thing I want you to take from today isn't a list of things to avoid. It's this. A woman pulling away is not the problem. Your response to that distance is where who you really are gets revealed. The test isn't about her, it's about you. Whether you can stay centered when the ground becomes uncertain. Whether you can keep being the man you were when everything was good, even when something shifts. That's what she's looking for, even if she never says it. She's not looking for perfection, she's looking for consistency. A man who doesn't fall apart at the first sign of wind, who doesn't need her approval to function, who chooses himself with such clarity that she starts wanting to be close to someone who doesn't need her, but chooses her. My name is Celia, and this space exists for men who are willing to look at themselves honestly and build themselves from the inside out. If at any point in this video you recognize something of yourself in what you heard, I want you to confirm it by writing in the comments, "I'm standing firm," and tell me where in the world you're watching from. I want to know who decided to wake up. I want to know who's walking this path with me. Subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell, and choose one of the videos that are about to appear on screen. Choose the one that makes you most uncomfortable, because right there, in that discomfort, is where real transformation begins.